Hey, what's going on? Luke here, and I'm here to do a video that is very, very long overdue. You know, long time no see, really. It's been quite some time since I've sat down and just talked about the NRL, talked about rugby league. And with the season officially starting tomorrow in Las Vegas, we see two games happening. I thought I'd go ahead and give my ladder predictions. Now, every man in the dog always does ladder predictions, and some of them are quite wild, some of them are pretty generic and just sort of base it off last year, one or two changes. Generally, my ladder predictions aren't the best. They aren't great. You go back to the end of the season, you have a little bit of a laugh at it. So that's all it really is. There isn't too much thought. Basically, I just went 1 to 17. I looked at it. I went, yep, that looks all right. Let's go ahead and make a video. Now, I'm going to start off at number 17 and then move all the way up to the minor premiers. And you know what? Let's not waste any more time. Let's get to who I have as the Wooden Spooners. And to be honest, this was actually quite highly contested in my opinion. There's a lot of teams who don't look that good, don't look any better than last year. And you look at the Tigers, for example, they made a lot of signings. They've been the team who's won the Wooden Spoon the last couple of years, and I don't see them winning it again with Jerome Lawai and a few other guys that they've brought in. I can't see that happening, but there are plenty of contenders who definitely can get it, and by no means is there a favourite. It's just a lot of teams who could get it. The team that I have picked, though, is the Canberra Raiders. They're in Vegas. They play tomorrow. Obviously, a strong start to the year in Vegas would be nice, but they've already had a lot of disruptions. The little fight, scuffle, whatever it was, Hudson Young, I think it was Morgan Smithies as well. You have two of them over there having to face the media in Vegas, like supposed to be promoting the game, and they're doing apology press conferences. It's not a good look, and you add in the fact that they are a bit weaker, and they're just a team, though, similar to like the Dragons and stuff, where no matter what their roster is, they seem to sort of escape the Wooden Spoon. However, I think it might be the year. Now, while I'm at it, I'm going to mention the two other contenders. So in number 16, I have the New Zealand Warriors. I think their roster, it's okay in certain parts of it, and then in other parts, it's really, really weak. They have you guys like Roger Tuivasa-Sheck and Nicole Klodstads and Fisher Harris. Like, it's definitely not a team that doesn't have any superstars, but at the same time, in the key areas, they definitely are lacking. Now, Metcalf actually looked half decent in the trials, but to me, trials don't really mean anything. I've seen plenty of teams get towed up in the trials and, you know, go on and win the comp. Like, it's a trial game. But he did look half decent, but yeah, still plenty of question marks over the halves pairing, which I don't think is a good thing. And then even then, like, when Sean Johnson was playing, they didn't particularly play well last year either. Fanua Blake as well, I think he will be a big loss. Fisher Harris, in my opinion, is a better overall prop, but in terms of fitting in with the Warriors, like, it'd be interesting to see whether he's going to be a standout prop who kind of carries them, or if he's going to lift the rest of them, or even, you know, downgrades a little bit. We'll see what happens with Fisher Harris outside of Penrith, but if he's anything like the rest of the guys who left Penrith, I think he'll be fine. I think he'll be a good addition, but yeah, the roster just doesn't do much for me. But it was only a couple of years ago, they were, you know, contenders to win the comp, so we'll see how they go. I mean, you can't rule them out, really, but yeah, they're in 16 for me. The other one is the Gold Coast Titans. Again, another side that has a lot of good players in it, got a pretty decent coach, although I will say, I think Desi, I think he's definitely past it in 2025. But they got a lot of good players like you know, Brimson, Campbell, Kinney. Oh wait, they're all fullbacks. Where do you play them? Kieran Foran just went and got injured, and they're playing him at lock. They've lost Tanner Boyd. They don't really have an out-and-out halfback anymore. So I don't know, like Des Hasler has worked with it in the past using, you know, 258s or, you know, people out of position or whatever. He can do a job with them, but in terms of getting the best out of this side, I don't think running with, you know, Brimson off the bench, it just doesn't seem smart to me. Brimson was playing for Queensland not long ago, but then someone's got to miss out, and they seem to be wanting to go with Jaden Campbell in the halves. Going Brimson and Campbell are just, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And I think for them to get the best out of you guys like David Fafita, I think they really need to have someone who's like an actual general and direct him around, because he's very good physically, but I don't think he's not going to just naturally do it. That's just not David Fafita. You kind of need to guide him around. Will be a big help having Tino back, because I think he was quite an underrated loss last year, but at the same time, like, they were pretty poor. And definitely look at downgrade in terms of losses, but like I said, Tino's back. They had a lot of injuries last year too, so you never know him. Plus Des Hasler, you know, we've seen him work wonders before, so maybe he'll do it again. Then in 14th spot, this might actually shock a few people, but I do have the West Tigers. Now, I think they'll be a lot better than what they have been the last couple of years. Not hard to do when you've won Wooden Spoon after Wooden Spoon after Wooden Spoon. There's a lot of optimism for the Tigers, but I mean, I said trials don't really mean much, but generally a team like the Tigers, they do alright in the trials and then massively disappoint in the season. But I didn't really see too much from them. Obviously, a lot of hype for Galvin, but wouldn't be the first player to have a second-year syndrome. I don't think he is. I think he will definitely benefit from having Jarome Luai there. I think just the team in general will benefit from having Jarome Luai there, but there's so much expectations on Luai, and it's not like they haven't brought in any big players in the past. Like Coruscant's come in. They signed Papali'i when he was second row of the year. They've had rep players like Clemmer and a few of those sort of guys come in. They've had some decent players. They just can't seem to put it together. Justin Olam, I think, is medically retired. I think he's a big loss for them. Honestly, the outside backs don't look any better than they have in previous years, and I think that's always been the weakness for them. Forwards have been okay. They've been serviceable, but the backs have been below par by a long shot. And, Skelton's okay, but defensively not great. And, Buller's okay, like he's a pretty decent fullback, but outside of that, Charlie Staines and all those sort of guys, like they're not it, and they definitely scream like a 14th place spot. Then in 13, I have the Newcastle Knights. Basically, you can kind of say similar things about the rest of the sides that I've already done, but the Newcastle Knights, very, to me, like unorganised with what their side is. Like you couldn't tell me, like I couldn't tell you what they won to 17. The only player who I can really tell you is Ponga's going to be at fullback, and probably like Margie and Bradman Best. Like the back line kind of picks itself, but other than that, like I don't know. Dylan Lucas, is he going to start? Is it going to be Piers Paul? Where's Frizzell play this year? They've lost one of the Safidi twins. Leo Thompson's leaving. Like, there's a lot of disruptions for them, and I really don't rate the coach at all. And honestly, I think they are a one-man show, so it all kind of depends on how Ponga goes, whether Ponga carries them or not. And I think by carrying them, I think it means getting them to this spot. In saying that though, I've said similar things about the Knights for a couple of years now about how they have, no locked-in halves or anything like that. Don't even have a hooker locked in this year. But they seem to make the top 8. They don't look good, they don't look impressive, but they make the top 8. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see whether this is a year that they fully drop off, but yeah, I've got them down pretty low. Next up, in 12th spot, an absolute shocker here, but we have the Sydney Roosters. I thought they looked diabolical in the trials. Their team on paper, to me, doesn't look good. A lot of the weaknesses that they've had, in the last couple of years when they still had all these superstars, they're still there. They're just even more glaringly obvious now. Like the fact that, number 9 is Connor Watson's the best one, but Brandon Smith, what do you do with him? He's on big money. Obviously, a half situation is a big one at the moment. If Chad Townsend plays, like dead set, it could be even lower. No offense to Chad, great career, but so past it. Like, there's no way he should be playing. Sanders Smith, I think, will be there, but I can also see them going like, oh, experience, let's play Chad Townsend. I can't see how. Well, they weren't very good last year, and that's with Suoli, that's with Joey Manu. Tedesco's another year older. They get Sam Wonka back, but he's coming off a pretty big injury too, so whether he bounces back or not remains to be seen. Angus Crichton had an all-timer season, and they still didn't do that well. They were very, very disappointing, and that's what I mean. If they're already disappointing with all those superstars, now they don't have all those superstars, like, what are we actually going to see? Like, Terrell May's gone. He was their best forward, apart from Angus Crichton last year. He's gone. Definitely lost. Hargraves, another leader. Just a lot of firepower lost. Yeah, I think they're going to be in for a world of hurt this year. Then next up in 11th spot, we actually have their rivals, the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Now, this is purely down to Wayne Bennett. If it was another coach, I'd probably have him further down. And obviously, we've seen his effect on the Dolphins with probably a less talented squad than what he's got at the Rabbitohs, at least individual-wise, but injuries already to start the season. Latrell's got a hamstring injury, which seems to... He just can't go without an injury or suspension, and I think that really, really hurts them. Cody Walker's another year older. Damien Cook's gone. Dodd doesn't look to be good. Dud probably more like it. Yeah, a lot of question marks over their side, and you're adding Cameron Murray not there now, but I just think Wayne Bennett is talented enough as a coach. He will get the best out of these guys, so you probably are like, I don't even know who he is. Look at a guy like Liam Knight, used to be half decent in first grade. Now he's like over in Super League, can't get a gig in the NRL. He's like perfect example of guys who he can just get the best out of them. And look at the Dolphins, like it'll be sink or swim for the Dolphins just to see where these players really are at, because they had a lot of guys who were kind of fringe guys and they've really cemented themselves. And I think a lot of it was due to Wayne Bennett, and we'll see if Wolf can do a job too. But I think the Rabbitohs will be, I don't think they'll really ever be in contention for like a top 8 spot or anything, but I think they'll sort of, they won't stay too far. I don't think they'll be in a wooden spoon contention either. Then next up, in number 10, we have the St. George Illawarra Dragons. Now, I think they are a smoky to make the top 8 because it's just so open. I think the Dragons definitely can. I think Flanagan, I think he knows how to get the best out of these players, similar to what I was just talking about with Wayne Bennett. I think he can get the best out of them. I definitely think they've got a way better roster than they did last year, and the fact that last year they got so close. Obviously, if they do get beat, they seem to get beat well, and a lot does remain to be seen whether first Damien Cook, how he sort of handles the whole season again. Does he play limited minutes compared to what he did at the Rabbitohs? Gutherson, is he going to be able to last the whole season because he's been quite busted the last couple of years? So yeah, a lot of question marks over them, but some really good signings, and a lot of the youngsters coming through. Like, there's plenty of potential with them as well. So I'm keen to see what the Dragons can actually do in 2025. The next up in number 9, just missing out the top 8, in my opinion, it's the Parramatta Eels. Now they'll be much improved. A lot will come down to Mitchell Moses, whether he stays fit. A lot of talk about Dylan Brown as well at the moment. Can't understand how they get the figures for Dylan Brown. It's ridiculous to me. A lot of question marks over the fullback as well. As got a couple of young fellas, and they've actually looked really good in the trials. But again, trials, you don't want to get too excited. I've seen plenty of guys who look like absolute superstars in the trials, never even got to play a game of first grade. That's kind of just how the trials are. In saying that though, they did look pretty good. Zach Lomax comes in. I think he'll be a big inclusion. And then Mitchell Moses is essentially like a new signing for them. He's coming back in. He didn't play much last year, so I think they'll be much improved. Obviously still going to be Origin and all that sort of stuff, where they'll miss games. Same with Lomax. Yeah, I don't think they'll make the top 8, but I think they'll be a lot better. And I need a new coach too. I think they'll be a lot better than last year. Now moving on to the top 8, this is where things do get exciting. And I'm going to start off with the number 8 spot. Now I have the Dolphins. Probably a shocker. And that's kind of the one I was looking for like what's something that could kind of shocking but kind of doable. And the Dolphins have been in amongst top 4s, top 8s for large parts of the seasons, and they always drop off at the end of the season. They got a few injuries last year, but they have a very, very talented squad. At this point, they put together a really good squad. Safidi comes over. They haven't really lost too many players either. Still trying to figure out where some of the players are going to play. Like, every now and again, Hammer ends up in the centers, but he definitely should be the fullback. But then you've got Avarillo. Where do you play him? Farnworth, you can argue he's the best centre in the game. The wingers are very, very solid, but Bostock actually just got injured, so he will be a loss. But Marshall Kingstyle, they have a very solid squad in general. And I think it's just a matter of them being able to hold on for the whole season, not be able to do it for 3/4 of it. But they're definitely capable. I think a lot comes down to the coach, though. Got done talking about Wayne Bennett. Obviously, I'm talking about his positive influence on the Rabbitohs this year. He was definitely a positive influence on the Dolphins, and now he's not there. So we'll see how they go. The next up in the 7th spot is the Manly Warringah Sea Eagles. Now, not too much different from last year. I think pretty similar spot to where they finished, if not the same spot. And yeah, no real losses, no real gains, nothing too crazy. It's kind of just the Manly of old. All comes down to Tom Trbojevic, as it is every year. Same with a guy like Cherry Evans, if he goes down injured, or if he plays Origin, or things like that. Kind of just comes down to the fitness of their side. But I think they're definitely a top 8 team. Maybe, if not a top 4 side. Yeah, very, very good team. Like, I don't really have too much to say other than, look at last year. It's pretty much the same. The next up in 6th spot, we have the North Queensland Cowboys. Now, they have a few losses. Definitely going to be big losses. And I don't think they've really replaced them too well. Definitely question marks over the halves. Drinkwater hasn't really taken that next step. But I do think it is going to be a pretty good season for them, and Reece Robson in his last season. I think they'll do enough, and just because it's kind of similar to when you look at teams like Warriors and the Raiders, it's hard to beat them when they're at home. I think the Cowboys are going to be strong enough to win a lot of their home games, and I think that should put them in pretty good stead for the top 8. So that's kind of my logic in them, being in the 6th spot, but yeah, when I'm talking about it, I'm like, oh man, maybe I shouldn't have had them so high. Now the next one, it's definitely going to shock you, and it is one that I'm kind of excited to talk about, just give my logic behind it. Being 5th spot, I have the Penrith Panthers. Definitely probably maybe the most, wildest take, the most shocking take of this video is the team that's done a 4-peat, missing out on the top 4, but I think there is going to be a little bit of burnout this year. Now, obviously they're going to have intentions of winning and all that sort of stuff, but every year Nathan Cleary goes down injured, and every year Jerome Luai steps up and does a job for them. And I know you guys like Snyder and all that, they do get a lot of credit. But the reality is Jerome Luai was always there to step up and do it, and he's not there anymore. And we don't even really know who's going to be the 5A. I mean, Jack Cole seems to be leading the race, but in the off-season it was all Blaze Talangi and all those sort of guys. So we'll see how they go. They definitely have guys who can do a job, but they're not Jerome Luai. They definitely aren't Jerome Luai. And yeah, I'm very excited to see how they actually go and how they start the season, because generally they seem to start off a little slow, at least the last couple of years, but by the end of the season they're absolutely flying. But Nathan Cleary gets injured every year around Origin time, and then he comes back just for the finals, but Jerome White carries in the meantime. I mean, we saw how good he was last year, where he went from being a guy that we're like, oh, he's just second fiddle to Nathan, and then he really stood up and he really led the team around. He was absolutely fantastic. So yeah, be interesting to see how they go. Fisher Harris also going as well, but they do bring in a guy like Papali'i, but he definitely was not looking that good at the Tigers. So if they get the best out of him, definitely, you know, we know what he's capable of, but it's a lot of what ifs for the Panthers, and they can also go ahead and, you know, win the minor premiership as well. Like, this is kind of just how good they are. Now moving on to the top four, I'll keep this one short because I am a Bulldogs fan and this is going to be biased, but I have the Bulldogs in at number 4. I think they've made some more good recruits. A lot of recruits who just fit the side. Now, plenty of sides, they make big signings. We see the Tigers every year make big signings. It's just a matter of whether they actually fit into the system. And Cameron Ciraldo has a great system going. Now, Josh Adokar will be a huge loss. Jacob Carraz, a lot of question marks over him. Would not be shocked if we see some bigger news about Carraz. But yeah, definitely downgrades there. But to be fair, the biggest strong point for the Bulldogs wasn't their wingers. I mean, Carraz definitely a huge part of it. But Wilson played plenty of games last year. Like, Adokar spent a lot of the time injured anyways. So in my opinion, Adokar not that big of a loss. But yeah, Carraz, we need to get him back out there ASAP. Connor Tracy also still looks a little shaky at fullback. When he's confident, when he plays good, but just not consistent under the high ball at all. But the rest of the side are really great. Can't really pick apart too much. You know, it's nothing too different from last year, other than the fact that they just have a lot more cohesion from the start of the season rather than trying to build it up towards the end. And we saw how good the defence was. Now imagine like a whole nother season. So I'm really happy with my choice of the Dogs at number 4. And at number 3, we have the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks. Now again, they're just a side that doesn't really change too much one year from the other. This year, they actually have brought in Adam Fanua-Blake. Now, there's no real notable losses that I can think of, and they've brought in a big gun like Fanua-Blake. Now, it seems weird that I haven't pushed them further up the ladder due to a big signing like that, but again, it's kind of like they're pretty solid every year anyways. And if they're not getting, you know, first, second, third, fourth, there's usually not too much in between them. It's just, I think there's 2 other teams just marginally better than them this year. But yeah, the Sharks will definitely be there. There'll be a lot of talk about Nico Hines again this year, about Trindle, and there'll probably be a lot of, you know, disappointing comments about Nico Hines and how he can't hack it and all that sort of stuff. But they definitely went a lot closer last year than they have in previous years. So I think they're definitely on the up. But again, not too much to say about the Sharkies other than just check out their last couple of years. Speaking of the last couple of years, the next 2 are the 2 grand finalists who lost to the Penrith Panthers, the most recent 2. And in second spot, I'm going to go with the Brisbane Broncos. Famously super close to getting the win. Probably the closest any team's ever come to beat the Penrith Panthers in a grand final, other than the team actually did, which was the Melbourne Storm many years ago now. But the Broncos, I think they'll definitely be a lot better. I think Walters really got found out that he's not a good coach. I think Maguire's not a great long-term coach, but I think this year we'll definitely see a much improved Broncos. And I think if they play half decent, if they play anywhere near what they're capable of, second spot, first spot, grand final, premiership, whatever you want, they're definitely capable of it. All the superstars in the world, they get a home game. Like, the home game atmosphere for them is great, so they have the crowd support. They rarely lose at home. Obviously, injuries and a lot of things need to go their way, and, you know, don't want to get affected by Origin too much. And, you know, see if Maguire still got it. It's been a couple of years since he's actually coached in the NRL, but I do like this Broncos side, and I do like their squad. And yeah, I am intrigued to see how they play and how they start off the season. I think how they start off will be a great indication of just where they are. Like, if they come out and lose a couple games early on, I think their confidence will be shot, but I do think they'll win. And that leaves us with the final side. I've already mentioned them, but it is the Melbourne Storm, who I think is going to pick up the minor premiership, first position, grand finalists last year. They kind of got outplayed pretty badly in the grand final, but there was a part where they were in front. Haven't really lost anyone. They've actually gained like Stefano, which is a big one for them. A lot of guys who were kind of not newbies, but sort of unknowns. They've really cemented themselves. Your Jack Howarths, your Eli Katoas, I mean, even like your Warbrooks, like really cemented themselves. Yeah, not too many changes. Cameron Munster will actually be fit. And they did a large part of last year with so many injuries. Like Tyron Wishart, how many positions did he play? He was absolutely tremendous. But yeah, a lot of guys who were bit part players or playing out of position or doing a job. I mean, I think we even saw like guys like Nick Meaney playing 5'8" and a few of those sort of guys. You have Pappenhausen back, hopefully fully fit. Farlongo's there as well. If not, he's got another season under his belt. It's a very strong, dangerous Storm side, and I think they're going to be really hard to beat just in general. But I think minor premiership-wise, they did it last year with all the injuries. I think they can do it again. It's just how do you tip against a side that did it with so many injuries like last year? Like imagine if they are fully fit. Imagine if Cameron Munster is actually like able to run properly. Anyway, that's my 1 to 17, guys. Let me know in the comment section below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Feel free to have a laugh too, because I feel like there's probably going to be a lot of hot takes in there. A lot of ones that after the first couple of rounds we're going to come back and have a look at. And like I said, have a good laugh at it. So let me know in the comment section below your real thoughts on this. But I'm going to end things here. Thanks for watching, guys. Bit of a long one, so if you did happen to get through this video, thank you. And stay tuned for more content on the channel. I'll see you in the next one. See yous. Well, that's the end of this video. If you happen to enjoy it, make sure you leave a like, subscribe. You know the drill at this point. Everybody YouTuber says it. Just go ahead and do it. It'd really help me out. Also, why not go ahead and check out some of these other videos that are on the screen right now.